The views and opinions expressed during Love and Life with Lana and Dave are those only of the speakers and guests and do not necessarily reflect the official policy or the position of our podcast hosts or affiliates. Any content provided is not intended to malign any religion, ethnic group, club, organization, company, individual, anyone, or anything. All right, let's do it.
You're listening to Love and Life with Lana and Dave, the podcast where logic is power and you take control. Thank you for tuning in and making the choice to listen in and get ideas for your own love and life. Now, here are your hosts, Lana Williams and David Vaccaro.
I know you've been waiting for part 2 of the logic of removing personal sensitivity from your interactions. And I'm not going to let you wait any longer. Here's part 2. So you can insult somebody back, and it's going to de-escalate into madness, right? But instead, just tell them that you think what they said to you was interesting and stop for a minute. I think they lose ground by insulting you. And personally, I think that you lose ground by insulting them back. And to be honest with you, that's what they're trying to do, is to get you to insult them back and take the argument out of informational discussion and into, some type of a personal attack, which diverts you from learning that they don't have any more information to impart or any more sources to cite. Also, it emotionally triggers you, and it means that they don't have anything left to argue with. Again, I use the word argument incorrectly because I don't believe that it is argument. I believe it's discussion, and some people will come at it like it is arguing. Now, you can take that as how dare somebody insult me, or you can. Let's say that you insult them back. That would be, you would be sinking to their level, right? As a kid, you hear so much, you're sinking to someone else's level. And as a kid, I never really understood that until I got older. And when somebody actually insulted me and I had that reaction that I wanted to insult them back, that really brings me down to where they are. And honestly, that kind of puts me in a position to lose ground in my discussion, right? Not win the argument or lose the argument, but losing ground in the discussion, in the sense that you're going to learn something from something that you're discussing, or you're going to learn somebody else's opinion or angle or some other information that you didn't know in order to make your information that you're learning more robust. Also, the other person knows that it's going to be really hard for you to keep discussing this in an emotional state, which they're trying to get you into, without being triggered, right? Now, you may be going through something also, by the way, that somebody doesn't know you're going through. And I do want to take a second to address that. If somebody is having a discussion with you and they are triggered by something personal, obviously it's really hard to understand that somebody might be going through something. There's no way you could really know. If you do know something personal is happening to somebody that's like really, really, really sensitive to the topic that you're discussing, then obviously I would assume you'd want to skirt that if it's somebody you care about. However, there may be somebody going through something that you don't realize it's happening, and you may trigger them by something you're saying. There's only so much you can know, and so don't take too much personal responsibility about triggering something that's really, really sensitive to them that you wouldn't know unless they told you. Now, in my case, when somebody insults me, I don't respond to the insult. I'll use the word interesting a lot, and it's to buy me a little time and to get me to switch gears into not so much what they're saying, but try to look behind what they're saying or beyond what they're saying. I will psychoanalyze someone, and I don't mean it in a bad way, meaning like I will then address them and the way that they decided to go with their argument as an interesting concept. Most people are really thrown off by that. So if you tell me I'm ugly or I'm stupid or I don't know, some really weird thing, usually with an argument, somebody actually tries to cut you deep on something that they don't really actually know. So if you don't insult them back and you sort of, it a little bit, when you think about it, there's really no need for you to react and take it personally. But if you take 10, 15, 30 seconds and just sort of wait, they won't expect that. And then if you then respond with, it's interesting that you said this thing, why did you say that? By the way, passive aggressive, we're going into that too. When you get passive aggressive language from somebody and it's annoying and frustrating and you don't know how to respond to it, the best way to really try to respond to this is literally, or you agree. If somebody says, well, I can't talk to you anymore, that's it. If somebody's really dramatic in how they speak to you and they fly off the handle over something and you really just take them literal and say, okay, well, that's a really, if you feel that you need to not speak to me anymore, that I guess that's fine. I can't do anything about that. That will stop them in their tracks. They expect you to respond emotionally or passive aggressively back. It's a way of getting attention, but if somebody said to you, listen, I guess I can't ever talk to you again, then I guess that's a dramatic way it's sort of an emotional manipulation to some degree. You can say to them, well, listen, I think that's a very overreactive response to what's happening here, but if that's the way you feel that you need to be, you do this once or twice with somebody, maybe 3 times. Eventually, they're going to stop doing the passive-aggressive thing with you because it doesn't work. Also, if you don't respond the way they want and they get upset with you, then it just goes to show you that they're pretty much were trying to lure you into an emotional argument. I learned at some point in my life that when people are talking to me and they're giving me all kinds of hints and subtlety and stuff like that, like I'm at a point in my life where I don't want to guess anymore what you're telling me. So I may even be aware that you're trying to do it, but I just will brush it off and ignore it. And I will take you at complete face value at this point in my life. And then I leave it up to you to correct yourself and tell me that that's not what you meant. I've made it your problem as opposed to mine. Yeah, I just don't. If I miss your point, and you're not being clear about it, that's going to be the end of it for me. I'm not going to guess what you're saying. I think passive-aggressive is a way of controlling, trying to make you feel bad so they feel better. Some insecurity is there. I would sidestep. It's not going to go well if you do that with people, and I don't expect that it will, but it will stop them from doing it. Basically, I look at passive-aggressiveness as a game. They're trying to get you to play the game, and if you won't play the game, they get upset. Or they'll just stop playing the game. And to be honest with you, with passive-aggressiveness, you want people to walk away because it's ridiculous. I don't know. I think it's a form of gaslighting, or it's adjacent to gaslighting. Also, gaslighting. If you're dealing with somebody that's telling you you're crazy for something that you thought happened, or they said something and then denied it, or anything like that, you tell them, hey, listen, I know what I said. I'm done with this conversation. Don't get into it with them. They will try to emotionally pull you in. Also, gaslighters are better off in a room of people. Do not ever really get into it with a gaslighter over any type of topic without a third person present. They will tell you at some point probably that you didn't hear what you had thought you heard, or you took it the wrong way, or whatever it was. I didn't say that, whatever they want to say. You just need to learn what gaslighting is, and then understand that particular person you can't discuss anything with them one-on-one. You will always need to do that in a room with another person, or at least one other person. Those are the ones that I can think of. Those are the people. Oh, I forgot about backhanded compliments. Let's get into that for a second. Those are to knock your confidence down. That goes with negging too. I'm not sure if you know what negging is. You can let negging make you feel insecure, but the fact that somebody is negging you, if you can recognize they're doing it, is that they're trying to make you feel worse. That is an indirect sign of insecurity coming from them. If somebody feels like they have to constantly tell you that you're not good enough, that somebody else is better, that you don't do this right, that you don't do that right, all these kind of things are to make them feel better. They don't have a really robust way of becoming a better person. So their way of dealing with anything like that is to really control people around them by trying to knock them down to make themselves high or look higher or feel better. It really doesn't last them very long, which is why they do it often. But don't let it make you insecure. Don't ever take their opinion and what they're trying to tell you that you're good or bad as any kind of personal worth for yourself. If they feel terrible, and I can almost guarantee you that's their problem. They feel like they're not valuable. They're trying to lower your value to make their value higher, or to at least bring you down to where they feel they are. That kind of stuff will bring your confidence down. It will make you question yourself. It won't really pump them up too much. It might for a quick second, if you psychologically understand that. It is a weird thing to get a compliment that's sort of not exactly a compliment. I mean, it is weird. It is supposed to throw you off balance. It is supposed to make you stop and try to figure out what's happening. Anything that sort of throws off your equilibrium, your emotional and mental equilibrium, in something like that case, it is definitely not unintended when that happens. You could say something back like, hey, I understand you attempted to compliment me there, and I'll take it if that's what you want to give to me or whatever. Take it as a complete compliment. Leave the negative part of it out. If they realize after once or twice that it's not really working on you, if you can try to write it down. Remember, when somebody actually gives you anything like a compliment that sort of would have been one, except it has a little bit of an insult in it. Now, getting into trolling on the internet, that's something else that's kind of under this umbrella. Anonymity is a big thing when it comes to trolling, and those two are connected for me. So when you get online and let's say you're having a discussion with somebody online that doesn't know you, doesn't care about you, those people will look for places to, I guess, make themselves feel better temporarily. Again, it seems to me like a really big waste of time and a lot to do, a lot of effort. But the fact that they don't know you and you don't know them, and they could really just be anybody. A lot of it is to get likes. A lot of it is to get traction on the internet. I think that if you go into some local news pages and look at the comments under them, you'll see people like that. They'll go and find car accidents and say ridiculous things as comments under car accidents, like, well, there was one recently where somebody got into an accident and the comment was, if you play stupid games, you win stupid prizes. There was a long story about that. But anyway, it was really highly insensitive, and a lot of people got really upset and responded back. But I mean, really what they're trying to do is get that reaction back. They're trying to get the comments to their comments, however they need to do it. So there are people that are emotionally triggered by stuff that they read, and it may be insensitive to a specific situation, but you got to understand that this person is somebody that's like from maybe a completely different state, a completely different country, and doesn't really care about anything except that like they're trying to get their thread or their comment to like go grow legs and give them visibility. And that's really the only reason they're doing it. And they don't care what they say to get what they need. Sometimes if you can remove yourself from the content of what somebody's saying and you look at the conversation, I'm not sure that it's easy for everybody to like do this, but if you can stand back and look at the big picture and sort of just watch the interactions themselves, having nothing to do with the content, you could see a person coming in and sort of dropping a bomb. I guess I would call it a bath bomb, and everybody responds a certain way. And then that person will respond to the most triggered people and to continue their vitriol, they'll post another troll comment to somebody that's responded to them. It looks like they're just trying to get legs. Somewhere on the internet, they're trying to get their claws in and then grow legs into a thread of conversation. Sometimes there's no reading comprehension sometimes to the responses that this person will put back up to somebody that's responding to what they said. Sometimes they'll just take the exact same response and throw it back at that person. It's almost like they don't even really care what the conversation is. They're just trying to get that person to continue to post in an overly emotional way, just to continue the conversation and, again, to get visibility. I know there are people that really, I know it sounds crazy, but there really are people that do this. They just, I don't know what it is, if it's that they're setting up bots to do that, or there are people that really are sitting around and have nothing better to do, or, that for some reason are getting paid by somebody to sit around and look for thread conversations like this just to get visibility to their profile there's a reason why all that's happening. Yeah, it looks like a chessboard from a distance. I know it sounds really weird. It's a pattern that I can see if I look at almost the text and the information filling into the conversation without the actual context or the actual topic or what people are actually saying. I can just sort of see, it just looks like a chessboard to me where people are somebody is making moves to try to get other people to make moves back to win the chess game. There's no emotional attachment for this person. There's no personal information for this person. They don't care. There are some people that want to be part of the conversation. They don't want to be left. They want to be left out of the conversation. They can't really follow the conversation and they can't really add anything of substance to the conversation, but they want to seem important enough to be involved in the discussion. There are people like that out there that are just like, I'm not smart enough to understand what's going on here, but I don't want people to ignore me. Any kind of attention, like I said earlier, some people really don't care what kind of attention they get. Obviously, they want positive. That's what most people want. But most people will take negative attention. They'll take anything over being invisible or being seen or thought of as invisible. I mean, this is their perception of it, right? Every so often, though, in a conversation like that, there is somebody that responds or gets triggered by what's being said, and this person will follow them off a cliff with responses because that's what they're looking for. They're looking for that explosive response that triggered emotional reaction. These people, honestly, are just going to be people that you want to sharpen your skills on. They're not people they have no personal investment in what the conversation is about. They don't personally have any information on you. There are people who might throw a bunch of stuff out there and try to insult you or try to get you to respond based on stuff that they assume, and they might hit a target. But just remember, those people are just people on the internet. They don't know anything about you at all. By the way, there are people who will even assume wrongly about you so that you can come in and defend yourself. That's also a reaction that they're trying to get from you. What you're saying and what they're saying is not the point. It isn't even part of the strategy. It's just, if they say this, will they get this? They're looking for responses. And this is like that in life, not even on the internet, not even discussions on the internet, but in life. There are people that really just poke the bear. And what they're saying isn't almost like really the point. It's almost like what they're trying to get you to say back, or your emotional reaction that they're trying to get from you, or whatever the kind of control they think they can have over you. You know what I mean? If you can spot that, it all goes so much better when you can spot that and say, oh, okay, this is where this person's at. And it becomes entertaining for you. Obviously, some people don't really care and they don't want to be bothered, and it's like a waste of their time, and that's fine too. But if you want to engage, you can then engage with almost an amusement, I think. And you'll notice in these conversations, at some point you'll see it trails off, and the person that you're talking to just stops responding. And usually that means that they've got 5 threads going, and some other thread picked up speed for them, or they found some other place to drop a comment and get back that same feeling, and so they'll kind of lose interest in the one you're in, whatever. But that's really what's happening. I think there's no way in the world you should get personally insulted by anything going on in that type of situation or that type of event. Every time you go to respond that way, just remember the person that you're talking to, that's their whole reason for doing it. Your response is exactly what they expect. And again, these news threads, like I was mentioning earlier, somebody could come in from Washington and be, or in Hawaii and be reading a thread about something that's going on in Pennsylvania. And it's very local to that community, but they're nowhere near the area and don't care about the personal information. So remember that. So moving on. Try every time you can to not only think about not what somebody's saying to you, but why they're saying it. If somebody's gaslighting you or they're using passive aggressive language, if you're having a conversation with somebody and they're saying things that are upsetting you or that seem personal, stop for a minute and realize there's a reason why those people are saying those things, or that person is saying those things to you. If you can take the focus off the what and put the focus on the why, instead of the face value of it, feeling assaulted or attacked, try to figure out why they are trying to insult you. It'll change your perspective a lot when you understand a little more of the psychological viewpoints on why things are said the way they are, or people are saying the things they are. Once you understand that somebody isn't really trying to hurt your feelings, they may be trying to lash out at you for something that they're going through, likely something you're not even aware of. Maybe lashing out at you is making them feel better. It could be a very unhealthy way for them to go about it. But if you think about it for a second, when anybody insults you and you just stop and you say, that's really interesting, or coming from you, that's really interesting, it'll disarm them. I would say never respond to insults with return insults. You take it and look at it in a whole different way and stop and say, listen, that's a really interesting thing for you to say to me. You think I'm an asshole? That's interesting. That will disarm whatever it is that they're doing. You can ask them why they think that. Gee, why do you think I'm an asshole? Most people will expect you to fire back another insult. So when you ask them why they're insulting you, unless you're fighting with them over something they think that you did to them, they're not really going to have an answer for that. There are some people that'll say, well, you know why, or you should know why, or something like that. That's usually some kind of a cop-out for them because they don't really have a response for that, and they didn't expect to be asked that question. And your response to them can be, well, maybe I should, but I really don't know, and that's why I'm asking. I wouldn't be asking you if I didn't know. Again, look beyond the insult. If it's somebody you don't know, then it should obviously be a little less personal to you. And insulting back is kind of futile. They're mostly trying to get you to do that, and there's usually some kind of psychological reason that they are. And they're giving it to you because you're not somebody that they're emotionally attached to. And if it's somebody you really care about, they're likely going to want to have a conversation with you if you're really open to wanting to know what's happening. You know what I mean? If it's out of character for them, or let's say it is in character for them, but it's just something that there's really no good that comes out of insulting somebody back, especially somebody that you've known, you are familiar with, you have an acquaintance for, or you are friends with, or family. Again, check for the why behind the what. I know it takes a little bit of practice, but you will not really see anybody around you as nefarious once you start to understand psychological responses and things that people are going through, the things that they do where they don't have enough emotional intelligence to discuss an issue. When they're hurting, when they feel that they've been ignored, when something that's going on with them that's not right, that's definitely a good way to avoid taking it personally. Remember the why. I'm bringing up dating also. This is the next thing. I want to bring up rejection, or perceived rejection. To me, the word isn't really accurate. If you're interested in somebody romantically and they say no thank you, to me that's not really rejection. What you're trying to do is find mutual interest. Like I said, I don't believe rejection is a correct word. Non-mutual is really, or non-mutual interest, or somebody isn't returning attraction, right? In your life every day, you're walking down the street. There's tons of people coming at you, and a lot of people are people that you find attractive, but you don't know if they're attracted to you because you don't ask. And that's the only difference between somebody that you ask and somebody you don't. So technically, there's some type of pride involved in asking somebody or letting someone know that you have interest. The fact that somebody's not actually interested in you romantically is not something they're doing to you on purpose. It has nothing to do with who you are as a person or your self-worth. There is a risk in approaching somebody with interest, and we really need to understand that it could go one of two ways when we do that. When it goes in a way where somebody isn't interested back, we can take it as a personal attack or personal rejection. But why would they tell you anything but the truth, right? You would want to know if they're interested back in you. I mean, you have to ask yourself when you approach somebody that you're interested in romantically, what it is that you expect from them. Not what do you want, not what do you hope will happen, but like what do you really expect they're going to say back to you? You know, you have to understand that it is not their fault that they're not interested in you. The best scenario for you is that they come out and directly tell you that they're not interested in you so that you can move on with your life. You don't want them to waste your time. Now, if somebody insults you when they say that they're not interested in you, then that's rude and that's wrong, and nobody should do that. And there are people out there that do that, and I've seen it, and I don't agree with that. But I don't think there should be a fear of talking to somebody that you have romantic interest in. I think that you should make it clear that you have it, if that's what you want to do. But you should also understand that it may not be something that they have back. And if they don't, it's not a big deal. It's not something that it's not. Let me flip it. Somebody's interested in you that you're not interested in. And they come to you and they talk to you. Hey, how you doing? Let's go do something. Hey, I want to have a cup of coffee. And you know that there's a romantic interest, but you're not interested back. How do you handle it, right? Hey, sometimes the compliment sandwich. Hey, you're a really nice guy. I'm sorry, I'm really not interested, but I'm sure somebody, whatever, something where you're trying to save their feelings, and that's fine. There are all different types of ways to say it back, but for the most part, why would you say anything? Why would you let them know information other than like what's actually honest? I say things, I'm getting to the point in my life where I say I'll pass or no thank you. Before you take it personally that somebody's not interested in you, I believe that people should take a non-mutual interest as a blessing and take it with grace and find out that the quicker that they understand the information or the quicker they have the data that they need, the faster they can move on, the less stress and aggravation they're going to deal with. I also believe that a non-response is to me clearly a non-interest. There are people who will chase you to the ends of the earth and tell you that you responded wrong because they don't like the fact that you didn't like them back. I don't agree with that. If somebody calls you a name or insults you back or asks you what they can change or asks you why not or, wants a list of or ignores what you're saying and continues to try to pursue you, that's a person's way of not being able to deal with a rejection. If somebody insults you, they're looking to hurt you back because they were hurt by being told no. But I got to be honest, there are a lot of people out there that are dating right now that really probably should have a little bit more of a realistic understanding of the attraction factor and of the fact that people cannot have feelings for you that they don't have. They can't feign those feelings. They can't create those feelings. Again, people should have a better idea how to respond to things like after they are 25, 30 years old. But there are a lot of people in their 50s and 60s that are really still do not have a very diplomatic way of dealing with somebody telling them no thank you. When you tell somebody no thank you, but they tell you, oh, you were ugly, or you were this, or you were that. Well, if somebody isn't interested in you, I'll put it this way. When I was a kid, I was real young in my teens. There was somewhere that I was with my friends. I think it was a flea market. I saw somebody that was like the hottest thing. I just like saw this guy that was really hot. I wasn't sure if I should say anything. I kind of was hanging around with my friends, looking over at him, probably telling them how I thought he was cute. I don't remember what he looked like now or anything like that, but I never saw him again after that. But at the time, I was really smitten with him or really taken by him and thought he was really cute. And I never ended up saying anything to him. So for 2 weeks, I kicked myself about never talking to this guy. I can't believe I didn't say anything. I'm saying to myself, right? I didn't have to hit on him, but I could have at least opened up communication, said hi, walked past him. Nothing about him. He was with his friends, so nothing about him looked like he wasn't single. They were hanging out, doing their thing, It was summer day. He looks to me like he would have been available, of course. We were looking at each other, back and forth kind of thing. Maybe, he was shy as well. Anyway, for 2 weeks, I kicked myself and was upset about the fact that, I never knew one way or the other. And so that was pretty much what did it for me as far as, whether or not I tell somebody that I'm interested or let them know. I was fairly young at the time. So early on, I decided if I like somebody, I see somebody I like, I'm going to do something about it, right? It doesn't make sense. I'd much rather get rejected quickly and move on than never speak to a guy and then find out, or the never, let's just say the never speak to a guy and then never know whether he's interested or not, or right, whatever. I don't like the regret thing, I don't want to feel like I could get in the time machine and go back and fix anything. And if I had talked to this guy, maybe he wouldn't be interested back in me, but I could have just closed the book on that, moved on, right? That's something, at least for me, that's important. So the next time that I saw somebody that I thought was cute, I basically said something to him. I know that I dated quite a few guys that I actually made a move on first. Who has time to waste 2 weeks of not knowing whether somebody's interested back in you, right, by not saying anything? It doesn't make any sense. I'm kind of an efficient type person, so to me it makes more sense to find out as soon as possible what I need to know, and anything that causes me to waste any time, of course, is not something I'm really happy about. When it comes to somebody that you're interested liking you back, you've had somebody that liked you that you weren't interested in. I don't care who you are. There was somebody into you at some point, at least one person, and you went through several attempts to let them know or dodge them or try to be nice. Maybe not be direct with them, but sort of kind of, you knew they were interested. They weren't sure if you were right because they were in that frame of mind and you weren't feeling it for them, right? I mean, you know what it's like to be in this situation. So it doesn't make sense to worry or think that somebody's actually got a problem with you as a person because they're not interested back. You also know that, or you probably would love to know quickly, You can't blame another person for not being interested in you, just like you could not have been blamed for not being interested in someone that was interested in you and you had no mutual attraction. It's not voluntary, right? Logically. With dating, it's kind of like the match game, right? You flip over a couple cards. They're a good match or they're not. Nobody's at fault. Nobody's good. Nobody's bad. You just move on. We have what we call tire kickers, right? And both men and women deal with it. Men more because they ask more women out than even in this day and age, right? There are women who aren't really interested, but they'll be okay with going on the date because they decide it's a slow week, or they'll go because they're not interested. There are guys that will try to convince you to go anyway, even though you have said to them, no, thank you, once or twice. And whatever might happen. But in relationships, there's always this uneven thing that happens because somebody is, I always say wishful thinking and politeness cause a lot of mismatched relationships, right? If it's a man's job to approach, or a woman thinks that that's the case, and they approach first. The other person has really the choice to make, right? Sure, men are the ones that approach, but women tend to be the ones that make the choice. There are people that will go out with somebody they're not interested in, where there are people who have dated somebody for a long time that they were lukewarm about, but that person treated them really well, or eventually you're in that relationship, somebody's treating you really well, everything's really great, and you think that that makes sense until somebody walks by that trips your hormones, right? That you really do like. You really would, it would be preferable to have mutual interests up front so that you're not dealing with that kind of thing down the road. You can wish somebody's into you, and I understand that feeling. I've been there, but at the end of the day, it is really a waste of time for them to like go out with you anyway, even though they're not interested, even though that might be what you want. And you might be in a mindset where you want to convince somebody that it'll work, or that you'll treat them a certain way and they'll change their mind, or whatever the case may be. But really, you don't want to go through an entire relationship where you're married and have kids before somebody decides that they're done with playing the game of being with somebody that they're not as interested in as they should be. I know that our society tries to push us into serious relationships and marriages at a certain age or at a certain point in our life. Insecurity also plays into it too, where if somebody worships you enough, maybe society thinks or tells you that that's the way that it's supposed to be. So you go along with it because, there's nothing wrong with being with somebody for a really long time and becoming close with them and bonding with them because they're somebody that you have known for a long time and you care about. But the attraction, may never have been there. And at some point you realize that's not going to grow. So it's only fair that somebody's honest with you if they're not interested in you, and vice versa, because it just saves both of you a whole lot of aggravation. Both of you really should be on the same page. It's not fun to tell somebody you're not interested in them. It's also uncomfortable. And by the same token, it's also very uncomfortable to hear. You can't let it affect your ego, but I know some people do. It's not fun to hear it back. It's uncomfortable to hear that back. But understand that it has nothing to do with whether they like you or not, whether they want to. It's not actually fair for somebody to feel bad. It's not fair to make them feel bad because they're not interested in you. It is completely and totally out of their control. That's why I have a little bit of a problem with the word type. You know what I mean? Sure, we all have a type of guy or a type of girl that we have interest in. But some of that is attraction based and cannot be changed. We're responding to what we're responding to. I don't think we can really change what we're attracted to. So at the end of the day, it isn't really fair to lead someone else on because you feel bad. And it also isn't fair for them to lead you on because they feel bad, right? So I've had people actually argue with me and tell me, no, this is the most personal thing ever. And I'm like, it's really not. They're not insulting you. They're not telling you that you're an awful person, that you don't have any worth. They're just saying they don't have a romantic attraction to you, which isn't anything they can do to change that. And also, they can't help it. You wouldn't want them to, I would imagine you wouldn't want them to date you anyway, despite the fact that they don't have attraction. Anyway, that's not something that you can do anything about. If you have a little bit of attraction to somebody, it can grow. But if you have none at all, I mean, it's for most people anyway. I can't speak for every single person on the planet. Some people really do have a growing attraction, but most, it won't work that way. And then at the end, understand that people get up in the morning, they go about their day. They don't ever intend to really hurt you personally unless they have some type of revenge out for something that you did or something specific about you. But most people in life generally aren't out to hurt you. In their daily activities, people can be opportunistic and they can be looking to get something for themselves, and you could be in the way of what they're trying to get. So it's possible to go underneath their tires in the process of them trying to do something that they want. I would say that that's probably most people out there, that, when something happens, that somebody does something to you, they stand you up, I don't know, obviously borrow money, don't give it back to you, or they speak ill of you or anything like that. Most times people are just trying to do their own thing and you're the distraction, you're blocking whatever it is, or they feel that you are, and that they've got to do this thing to get this other thing. You happen to be circumstantial to that. So some people really hurt everybody around them. They do. They just hurt everybody around them. They're not aware of. They don't know how to keep relationships. They don't know how to respect relationships. And so, it's still, even in a case where everybody in their life is somebody that they do harm to, it's still not personal to you specifically. So it's always good to remember that when you're going out there and living your life, when stuff happens to you and somebody does something that, that might hurt you, that they usually are, there's some kind of self-interest that they have going on, or some kind of self-motivation to go after something that they want. If somebody stands you up to hang out with somebody else, that's a self-interest to them. And maybe both of those people aren't important to them. They want one over the other. They think there's a priority. But really, if you're the type of person that's hurt by them not showing up somewhere, they didn't really wake up that day and say, okay, I'm going to hurt this person. This is the thing I'm going to be planning all day long. No, they make a snap decision where they've got to choose one person over the other in their minds. This one's more important than the other one. That's not to hurt you. It's just to get whatever it is that they need. Maybe that person has something they want and you don't. I don't know. Also with the universe, I would say zoom out to the universe and say that, if you're going through life and things are happening to you, your car breaks down, your air conditioner breaks, I don't know, things like that where some people really do feel like the universe has got some kind of a grudge against them and it's basically happening to them because the universe has an issue with them. I like to just remind people also that some of it will happen to you no matter what, just because of odds and the chaos theory, whatever, whether it's a tornado, whether it's weather, whether it's traffic, construction, traffic tickets, whatever, things like that. Those are sort of things that happen to all of us. Sometimes they just happen at a bad time. Sometimes they all happen in a little cluster together. And it seems like life is trying to, give you a hard time. But I don't believe that anything like that's happening. There's no kind of universal grudge against you, And I think a lot of times how you deal with it is also it helps you to deal with it in the right way. But of course, it's never your specific name, first and last name, and your specific address. You specifically are not the thing that, is getting wrath for some reason, I actually saw something online today that said something like, my transmission died. This is the worst time for my transmission to ever die. And I said something like, your transmission dying at 24/7, 365. There is no good day for your transmission to die. So to say, this is the worst time, I can't believe this happened to me. I mean, anytime your transmission dies, I don't know anybody that's transmission died that was happy about it and said, this is the best day this could happen. I mean, unless their car was already in the shop and there was a mechanic already working on it. But for the most part, it's when we're driving that it happens. Anyway, that wraps it up. So there's all of our stuff. We went through all of our topics. So yes, last week was part 1. This is part 2. Just going to run you over some quick stuff. www.lananddave.com. That's where all of our podcast platforms are. That's where all of our podcasts actually are. You can listen to them straight there. And then all of our social media list is listed there as well. So you can get to everything from that page. If you can, give us a 5-star review, or 5 stars and a review. And if you could download or subscribe to our podcast on whatever platform you have, that would be really great for us. Also, buymeacoffee.com/Lana and Dave. That's /Lana and Dave on that. Buy us a coffee. It does help us get through our podcasts. Sometimes we need coffee to keep ourselves awake or to keep ourselves, bright-eyed and bushy-tailed to get through the podcast. So we love coffee. We need some coffee. Buy us some coffee right now. All right. So next week's episode, I believe, is an episode about how easy your relationships are. If it comes, I think the phrase is if it comes easy, then it can't possibly be right, or it has to be a hard work in order for the relationship to be valid. So I believe that is going to be our podcast. Dave will be back with us. He has had some downtime and had some personal stuff going on, but he should be with us next week. So stay tuned. It's been great talking with you. It's been great sharing my ideas with you, and hope you enjoyed the podcast. We will talk to you soon. Hey, you just listened to Love and Life with Lana and Dave. Thanks for joining us, and we hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please share the podcast, leave us a comment or review, and don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss any new content. We'll see you soon.